Younger generations are falling behind as reading declines. According to a survey last year, Gen Z read fewer books than any generation. And more than one third of kindergarten through 12th grade students said they dislike reading.
A Pepperdine University professor told Fortune, quote, "It's not even an inability to critically think. It's an inability to read sentences. I feel like I'm tap dancing and having to read things aloud because there's no way that anyone read the night before."
Here with her take is Brooke Uten, co-founder of Enriched Literacy Education. Brooke, what is going on? This is terrible news.
It really starts in the earliest ages, and we're seeing studies of children as early as primary school age that are unable to perform basic skills because I believe they're not being read to, they're not being spoken to in the home. Their communication skills are so much lower than children of that age, even just 10, 20 years ago. One UK study reports 600 teachers were interviewed, and they said the children don't know their names, how to use the bathroom independently, how to brush their teeth, which is really terrible. Fast forward, we have Los Angeles Unified School District, second largest school district in the United States. We have parents there saying their children are on iPads all day. One mom reports her 6-year-old wet himself at the table 4 times. He's otherwise neurotypical, does not have an issue with toileting because he was on an iPad and lost track of time.
Wow.
What's going on, everybody? This is Justin Paul. This right here is a damn shame. They're saying Gen Z can't read full sentences. 35% of K through 12 students say they dislike reading. Man, reading is supposed to be fundamental. It's supposed to be similar to writing, speaking. Reading is supposed to be something that's just second nature. And to see, 30, almost 40%, that's a lot. That's a big percentage. And I'm not sure of all who was surveyed within the survey, but it doesn't really matter. I feel like the sentiment would be the same all across America, especially like I was saying, these kids are, on these iPads and tablets all day, or if they have phones, whatever electronic device, and it starts with the parents. It starts with the guardians and parents of these kids. You have to put a book into their hands so they can learn how to read or read to them. It's as simple as that. As they were saying, some kids aren't even getting talked to when they get home. So they lack in communication skills because I always say, man, and I heard this, and then I truly believe it. Learning starts at home. If your kid is only learning in school, then you're failing your kid tremendously. Because school is only going to teach them, but so much within the curriculum. But everything else they should learn has to be outside of school. It has to be from, their parents. You should be reading to your children, especially your little ones. You should be encouraging your older kids to read books, read articles. They have, even if it's just ebooks or something like that. And I know, they came out with the invention of audiobooks, which takes reading out of your hands. I listen to a few audiobooks, but, I still would, love to read. But, I'm looking in, within my age group, 8.2 books. And that's still a decline. But as you get lower, 5.8 books, and soon it'll be, 1 to 3, 1.3 books or 1.5 books. So I feel like this is definitely something that needs to be taken serious all across the country. We want to make sure we push these young kids to love to read, to want to read, because it'll take them far. You don't want a generation coming up that is not not able to read, but not able to, you know, like not even want to pick up a book, not even think about a book, you know. And just to think, you know, some of you that like to read, just to think of, you know, how your mind, you know, is able to travel and how you're able to use your imagination when you are reading a good book. Also, you know, they have self-help books, autobiographies, you know, fiction, nonfiction. It's just so many different, you know, styles, fantasy books, comics. It's just it's just a shame that it's become, you know, this has become an actual thing, for the younger generations.
overstimulated. So,
And then too, you know, if your kid
so
is
for
is if your kid is not, if your kid is not able to get off their tablet to go and use the bathroom, then something's terribly wrong. You need to take that tablet from your child. Nothing should distract anyone to where they're not able to get up and go use the bathroom when they need to. Um, or, you know, nothing should distract them from not being able to spell their name. It's just no excuse for some of this stuff. Not knowing how to use the bathroom for themselves. You know, at a certain age, they should be able to independently go and use the bathroom. You know, that's girls and boys. They both should know how to independently go and use the bathroom the proper way. You know, so I feel like a lot of this, man, definitely goes back on the parents, man. I can't really blame the kids because nowadays parents will shove an iPad or a tablet in their kid's face, and you know they may be working or just not even wanting to deal with the kid, and you know the kid is not getting their, they're not going to be able to reach their full potential like that.
replacing human interaction and reading with iPads, people aren't going to like reading. iPads are a lot more intrinsically interesting to the brain. The dopamine is lighting up.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Reading takes work.
You know, it's so interesting, and we've spent so much time talking about how that engagement with an iPhone or an iPad kind of scatters the brain and causes anxiety and things like that. But what we don't spend enough time talking about is the importance of sort of the other end of the spectrum, which is the devotion of the mind to a book or to something you're reading and learning to read, and how that actually calms the mind and focuses the mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of research out there about even, you know, at the very littlest age, when we respond to our babies make a noise and we respond. That's called serve and return. That is how they develop language. And, you know, it's interesting because going back to LAUSD, their argument for bringing technology into the classroom was this is going to level the field from a socioeconomic perspective because children that are in underserved communities need to be tech literate. Well, actually, the research shows it has very little to do with your means in terms of the quality of the language development in your home. It has to do with how much you interact and talk to and read to your child. And now we're looking at, you know, the New York Times this fall came out with an article, 1/3 of our high school seniors are not ready for college. They do not have a basic reading level.
Wow.
Yeah, you know,
1/3 of our high school seniors.
it's fascinating. These tech oligarchs convinced all of the schools and the government to put these devices into the school, these iPads, and then they send their own kids to Waldorf schools with like wooden toys. It's fascinating to me, and also the fact that a lot of moms aren't reading
Crazy.
to their children. So
Indeed.
that's a big deal. Thank you, Brooke.
Definitely a big deal. Of course, the tech companies are going to want to put their, you know, their devices into the schools and stuff like that. I mean, kids are coming home with like little laptops where they can do modules on there and stuff like that. I think we just need to check ourselves as a society and, you know, we mix in some of the basics, the traditional basics, in with the technology, or else we just gonna have, you know, generations who don't know how to read, don't know how to properly communicate, and like they were saying, you know, it can lead to other things like a lot of mental illnesses. You know, they can have anxiety, depression, or just a host of things that can come from this. And you know, just seeing where it says high school seniors have, the worst reading skills since 1992. I mean, I can recall being in school and, you know, up in the high school and age, and you call on certain people to read, and they're stumbling, reading very slow, um, not able to even sound out words, because at that point you should be able to phonetically sound out words, and you know, I mean, we have to get this on the wraps, man. And like I said, it starts with the parents. Parents need to be talking to their children, regular conversations. Um, Also reading to their children, making sure they set aside some time to where, hey, you can get on your iPad or your tablet for this amount of time, but you need to spend double that time either reading, writing, you know, like I said, having conversations with the parents. So I put this on the parents, you know, parents, guardians. I put this on them, and if something doesn't change, because parents are getting younger, but if something doesn't change, man, we're gonna have a whole generation of people just out here with no soft skills, no logic in their minds, um, full of mental issues, won't even know how to read, um, and brains gonna be scrambled because the only thing they do is just have their face in a tablet or iPad all day. But go ahead and wrap this one up. Um, this is a damn shame. If you like my content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. This is Justin Paul. Peace.